Hey there, women of light. It's Wednesday Wisdom, and I'm very, very excited to have the beautiful Stephanie here. And we're going to be talking about children that have anxiety, right? So we're going to be talking about all facets of that. If you're watching on the YouTube, then please subscribe and hit the bell so that you get notified when we've got other things on, because we've got plenty of exciting stuff on. We're just building up our YouTube channel now. So welcome, Stephanie. It's lovely to have you. And both of us are in New South Wales and in Australia, so we've actually seen each other in the live flesh just recently, which is so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So Steph, what is it that you know, talking about kids with anxiety, I know that you're actually trained in that sort of thing. What is it that you actually do?
Yeah, so I'm trained as a cool kids anxiety therapist.
Yeah, just in time. We've got a little kid here.
Yes, Ian. What's up?
Isn't it always the way? Like, isn't that beautiful?
What the time will be?
Okay, just go tell Daddy that the time will be, okay? And I'll come in 10 minutes. In you go.
It's already been 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's okay. It's not a time for anything important. Off you go.
Okay, Mommy.
I'll come and check later.
That's so cool.
It's a short one. And it's already short.
I know it's already short. Come on. When I finish, I'll come straight in. Yeah, we'll just roll with it.
It's life, right? It's just the way life happens.
I know. I used to get so flustered and so frazzled and think like, oh, and then it just creates too much stress and energy is not helpful, and so scoot her out. And
it's life, right? That's the way life is. Sometimes that happens. I don't know if you know, but I used to teach baby massage.
Okay.
And sometimes I remember one time we had 20 women with 20 babies.
Wow.
Yeah. And so when one goes off, they all go off, right?
Yeah.
So I used to have a doll. So I would, because the parents would do that, be a bit anxious, you know, oh my gosh. So I'd pick my baby up and just go, oh, it's cuddle time. just the way it is. Life happens, right? It's fun. I love it. So what sort of work do you do so that you can share that with people?
Yeah. So as I was saying, I'm trained in a particular kids anxiety therapy called the Cool Kids Anxiety Program. And that's a beautiful, structured, evidence-based program that helps kids overcome their anxiety. So it's to do, we work with the kids and the parents, obviously, because us parents, we need to know how we can support our kids, what to say, what not to say. Often we fall into certain traps and things like that can maintain anxiety. So that's kind of what I love, because I've got a bit of a background of having anxiety myself when I was younger, and I didn't have anything like this, and I bloody wish I did. So now I think, oh my God, like I could get trained in this. I could get accredited and run it myself for kids and families. So I kind of took the leap and took that jump earlier this year, and have been seeing families over the last few months. And that kind of fits in nicely with my other work, which is just parent coaching from an emotional intelligence point of view. So
yeah, that's beautiful. And so tell me, like, you know, I got to tell you, I would not want to live, like, be bringing children up in this day, this time, you know, like, and I'm assuming that things like COVID have really shifted a lot of kids' level of anxiety, and, you know, because they feel so much what's going on. And so, you know, my daughter, I remember when 9/11 happened, broke down 2 or 3 days later. Oh my gosh, what's going on, you know? And so with this level of anxiety, you know, in the air, what are you seeing presenting? What are some of the things that's happening for kids?
I think there's a lot of that confusion and anxiety and that worry. And I kind of look at the, you know, kids, as you said, they pick up from our our energy and our emotions, as much as we think that we keep it together. I mean, and I'm human. There are days when I don't keep it together.
Yeah, yeah.
So I can't, I'm not one to say, we
You've got to do it all the time.
No.
Halo.
Yeah. Hell no, no way. So I do see that, sometimes there is a common thread in the family. And if we look at the research, it's more often to do with mums having a level of anxiety, and that can flow on or just can impact their child. But it's really, I'm hyper aware now of what we as parents bring to the dynamic with our kids, how we're raising them. Are we raising them with that, the resilience and the confidence and that kind of strength? Or are we potentially passing on and just allowing that anxious sort of energy to be the way of being? Like, we all have a culture in our family, right? And I talk about, I want to help parents create an emotionally intelligent family culture where we talk about emotions, we work through them, they're not messy, they're not fluffy, we don't sweep them under the rug. We can work through it and problem solve and come out better. But yeah, it's interesting to see different families with their different dynamic, and I do love that when we work with kids, or when we see kids who have anxiety or a sensitive nature, to have a look holistically at the family, particularly the parents, and what sort of energy is going on there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I just recently heard, I was listening to YouTube, and the guy was saying from 0 to 7, children's consciousness is at a lower vibration. They're actually in theta.
I was meaning to ask you about this a while ago, because I had also, I feel like I read some stuff about it and then fell in the YouTube vortex as well and got a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And also that 0 to 7 period where they're quite unconscious in that almost imaginative state in the theta brainwave, and then throughout the years beyond that, they move into different brain
frequencies.
Frequencies.
And so the theta wave is actually the wave that hypnosis puts you in. So actually from 0 to 7, they're in this hypnotic state. And that's why you hear people say they're like little sponges, right?
Yes.
Because they're not just hearing, they're experiencing your behavior as form of communication, right?
Yeah.
And so if, as you said, if the mother is anxious, or there's challenges with their confidence, then they're imparting that onto the children. So how does your thing work? How does your course work? Like what is it that you do?
Yeah, so sorry, Eve is coming in.
Yeah, totally fine.
I told her at the start it'll be a really quick work call and just play outside or inside. She's just turned 4, so she's
that's exactly right. So totally in the space of just being, because that's the level of imagination and dreaming and all that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah.
But they're off with the fairies. It's actually changed my understanding of kids and watching them outside playing. Like I was watching a kid in a line the other day. The parents are standing in the line, and he's just running and jumping, and I'm like, because he's not aware that this is what we, he's being told this is the behavior. But at the time he was still, in that play and enjoying and stuff, right? So it's different brainwave. Like, it just shifts your whole idea of what's going on for them.
Yeah, I think they're in that explorative stage, and that's their nature. They want to look out, explore, adventure, and try and use their bodies and things like that. And it's almost fruitless to tell them, stop doing that, don't touch it, don't look at it, sit still. I was talking to my husband on the weekend, because we had 2 kids' parties on Saturday at the same play centre. So I was there for a span of like 4 hours, and I could see when they're in the little party room eating, there was a girl turning around and looking and making silly faces and stuff. at a party, and her dad, I was just kind of watching, saying, sit down, turn around, eat your food, da da da.
Yeah.
Not in a strict way, but I was like, nah, let her go.
Just let her go. It's a party, right? Yeah.
She's probably had green cordial and
yeah, that's right. Yeah. Off her head. Yeah.
And she was only like just turning and looking and wiggling a bit and poking people, but not like, you know, really.
Isn't it interesting though, because we have our own patterns of behavior and what we perceive the world having, right? Like the world's beliefs in what we should be doing as a parent, what our child should be doing, all of these structures that we've got around all of this stuff, you know, like it's surprising that we ever get it right, really.
Yeah. And I think that actually that's a really good point that you bring up, because if you're a parent of a child who's quite sensitive or anxious or has a diagnosis of anxiety, one of the anxiety disorders, conditions, let's call it, we need to be aware of our own belief systems, our own expectations, rule book, parenting rule book, paradigms. Someone we know, Elizabeth, talks about calling ourselves out on our BS, which is just our belief systems.
Yes, belief systems, that's right. Yeah.
You know, things like kids should be seen, not heard. Kids should sit still and eat their food. You know, kids shouldn't challenge their parents, what their parents say, maybe. Kids shouldn't be so nervous and anxious. They should be able to try something and give it a go without...
Kids should be not running around out there in the public, you know, like in shopping centres and stuff like that. Yeah.
And even ones about ourselves, let's go with mums. Mums should be able to manage part-time work, full-time work, the home, the kids, the meals, the cleaning, the this, like all these
absolutely
and paradigms and things that are
pressure
doing the pressure.
Yeah.
And just to acknowledge that we have those and realize the impact they're having on not just our lives and our stress and frustration, but our kids. Like, wow, when I keep setting the bar here for my kids and they perpetually fail to meet it because they don't have the brain development, they haven't developed the skill, or something internally or externally is going on, like, and they're having an adaptive response to that, which we call behavior. You know, it's just like, have a look at those things and can you maybe adjust or lower those expectations, you know, bring them into reality. I often say your kids are showing you with their behavior what they can and can't do or cope with. They're showing us when they're wiggling around in their seat, or if they melt down when a sibling has just taken a toy, or they've gone to the swimming lessons and they're like my daughter, you know, Eve, and she's clinging to me. She hasn't yet mastered or developed that skill, and that could be a cognitive skill of you know, the all those prefrontal kind of skills like planning, organizing, empathy, morality, all of those, you know, behavioral self-control, emotional regulation. Our kids are progressively, for years and years, developing those skills. We have to be patient. And tolerant and compassionate and understanding.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's right. And the example of as well, you know, and one of the things that I have noticed myself is, you know, we treat kids like kids and then expect them to be successful adults. And like I'm just thinking of the examples that I've seen in my life just recently, where we laugh at behaviors because they're cute. And but if we behave like that as an adult, we would be, you know, thought, you know, that it's disruptive or whatever, and giving the kids the skills and not reacting to them as a little child, but giving them, you know, they do have the ability, right, to understand and learn, because they are those sponges. So giving them that ability to learn a bit of what, you know, a different way of doing that, or, you know, coping in a different way, or whatever it might be, right? So there's so much to bringing children up.
Yeah, and I think I love what you said. It's almost like I see it as a bit of a two-pronged approach to raising emotionally resilient or emotionally intelligent kids or confident kids. We have to understand, let's say our kids are a little bit nervous or shy or anxious, and we want to, boost that confidence and their feeling of competence as well.
Mm-hmm.
We have to understand, number one, that our kids are, in a way, there's a bit of a ceiling in terms of what we can expect from them because of their brain development. So when I do a workshop or a live or something, I often say, put in the chat, when do you think a child's or a person's brain is fully developed? And I'll get responses like 18, 20, it's mid-20s. It's 25 to 28 is what the latest research is saying when a person's brain is fully developed. So, when you have a 4-year-old or a 7-year-old or a 10-year-old or a 15-year-old,
well, I've got 25 and 26, so I've still got some influence, have I?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying? Please tell me.
It's such a like a realization moment. It's like, oh my God, like that when I mention that to parents, it just kind of brings them down to earth and grounds them. And they say, whoa, I've been expecting them to do this or to be able to have this skill or this level of confidence, let's say. So we have to understand that, we're working against it's almost like hardware, or I say the brain is under construction. It's not yet, the map it's not fully there yet. So we need to just allow that, the fail times, the mistakes, the stuff ups, the parts where they're really egocentric and selfish, where they lack that empathy, or they have terrible decision making, that's going to happen because they don't have so that's one side. The other kind of part is that, as you were saying, they are sponges. Even older kids, we know even teenagers still will rate parents as the top most influencing people in their lives, despite the fact that we know that their peers' opinions and things count a lot more than when they're younger. So there is still so much to be said for us giving our kids opportunities and experiences and supporting them through tough times, through adversities, through anxious, nervous worries and things like that, and through friendships and everything. There is so much that we can do to help kind of cultivate those skills and help them grow up and into successful, kind, resilient adults. So
that's really beautiful. And the other part of that is the fact that we go to school to learn how to read and write. We go to school to we come out of school and we have to learn how to do tax. We have to learn how to run a business or run a household or whatever it might be. And we've got all this generational history of bad decision making when it comes to parents, right? Like and children, and like the generations that were morphing into something else, like the 60s and the 70s, and free love and all this, like all the different decisions on a societal level. It's so important that we realize that there isn't a roadmap given to us. And so if you go and learn or study something for work or whatever, why is it that we're not seeking out people like you that there's so much research out there on all of these brainwave, all of this information, behavioral issues, all of these things is so important if we're going to bring up and shift the dynamics of society, because we're individuals that make society up, that we seek out people that are going to support us to bring up successful adults. Emotionally stable, whatever. So
because a lot of this, like you said, was not around earlier. Like when my parents raised me and I had the strong anxiety in my teens and 20s, there wasn't all this research about the brain, about the polyvagal theory, of our fight, flight, social engagement nervous system. Like we didn't know a lot about that stuff. Now I'm like knowing so much more about our brain and body and the mind and body connection, and just behavior, knowing that, for example, we used to see, I would say, behaviors on a surface level of, I see this behavior of a child melting down, being anxious, avoiding, needing constant reassurance, or, you know, not sharing and whatever. And we used to look at that behavior as, how can I get rid of it?
Yes.
What can I do to shape that behavior into something more socially appropriate?
Yeah.
Or culturally appropriate, or things like that. We really used to look at the surface level. Now we know the beautiful concept of the iceberg, but looking at what's underneath, you will see about the behavior on the surface. What we see from our kids is the 10%. Underneath that,
90%.
many factors of what is driving that behavior. The behavior is just the visible active, the visible response. It's like an adaptive response. Our child, something happens either internally in our child's system or externally around them. Mum says, no, you can't have the ice cream before dinner.
Yeah.
And they have an adaptive response. Their nervous system, it's because it's so underdeveloped, it's like fight, flight. No, I really want it, I can't wait. Or, oh my God, that's a swimming lesson, I've never met that teacher, I'm not going in there.
Becomes a trigger, a charge, gets stuck in the subconscious. We're actually working on the same page now because you know, I do recoding, right? So all of the stuff that I'm doing is all this stuff, but with adults.
Yeah.
And so, you know, like, it becomes a part of the subconscious, it becomes a pattern. And next thing, you know, I did a healing very quickly. I know you've got to go. I did a healing where with someone, went back into a childhood experience of being in a cot as a 3-year-old. Mum was in the kitchen. My brothers were in the lounge room carrying on and fighting, and she was yelling at them. And as a 3-year-old, I was just curious, wanted to be part of what was going on, but I'm in this cot. So I'm crying and no one's listening because Mum knows I'm safe in the cot. She's dealing with two things at the same time. And in that moment, I create a charge of feeling abandoned. Just an everyday normal, I mean, that's no trauma. Like, I've had trauma as a lot of people, right? That's just a normal everyday experience. And as a little girl, I create abandonment in that moment, and that follows through in that pattern is created through my life. And so crazy, right? So, you know, like, this is why we need people like you to be supporting us as parents and our children to become emotionally intelligent, right?
Yeah, because you're right. Like, children create, they almost, how do I explain it? You'll explain it better. We draw conclusions.
Yeah.
From innocuous.
Make an assessment.
Events. Yeah. We make an assessment and draw a conclusion, and that creates the fabric of our reality and who we are and our self-worth and all that kind of thing. And so to be able to acknowledge and maybe undo some of that, particularly with the kids who have anxiety around whatever it is, to really help them to recognize it's almost like that. It's really simple thoughts. You know, the thoughts that we have create the feelings and the mood and the emotions that we feel, which in turn then creates the behaviors, the anxious avoidant behaviors.
Yeah.
So to give our kids a little bit of the understanding the science behind what they're feeling and why they're feeling like this, and normalize it. It's really a normal emotion. But when it gets to a certain level that impacts day-to-day life and makes us feel really stressed a lot of the time, then this is when we do something about it. And this is how to really bring up to the surface what's going on, not shove it, sweep it under the rug kind of thing, but talk about it and gradually break down and then empower the child to choose a more calm, confident, resilient thought and then action and feelings, rather than what they're used to, which is the unrealistic, anxious, nervous, worried thought, and the feelings that go with that, and then the behavior that goes with that. So
and that then locking in, and absolutely.
So I wish I had stuff like this when I was younger.
I know, isn't it cool? Hey, and we've got it now, and so many people that we can support. You know, you can support with your children. So if someone wants to get in contact with you, they've listened to this and go, I need Stephanie. Where can they get in? Of course, they can just jump on, friend you on Facebook and then message you, I'm assuming. Yep. Do you have a little chat that people could come and chat to you?
Yes. Yeah, I do. So probably the easiest way is just to go on my website, which is stephaniepinto.com.
Yeah.
Or you can friend me on Facebook and send me a message that way. And I have a free 30-minute consult for parents who want to explore or want to ask questions and want some support with either their own emotions and triggers and things like that day to day, but also whether they need that support to help their kids through some of this stuff. So I'm more than happy to have a chat with you. And then you might also like to join the Facebook group that I run, which is just called Let's Raise Emotionally Intelligent Kids.
Awesome. And we're going to put the links in underneath in YouTube and in Facebook as well. So you'll be able to click on those links. But say hi if you're watching live, or if you're watching the replay, do hashtag replay. And lovely to chat with you again, Stephanie.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Elizabeth.
It's been exciting, and it's a joy to have your children in and seeing that it's all very normal for all of us, right?
Yeah.
Take care, and we'll speak again soon.
Thank you.